Hello everyone, I'm Socksway Up. Welcome back to our Anno 18 mixed with City Skylines Highrise City Let's Play series. Today we're going to dive back into it. We're going to work on our iron supply chain. Time to get the iron in so we can get some more buildings built, some new ones to open up some new things for this city to keep growing and keep progressing. Last episode we discovered that we were not able to mine ore in the land that we have purchased right now, so we're going to have to build another shipyard to use trade to bring in some ore, some iron ore, get this supply chain going for the iron that we need. It seems to be the next resource for building a bunch of buildings that we need to progress in Highrise City. So again, you can see some of my struggles in trying to learn the basics of the game. Finding a place on the shoreline where we can add the shipyard was a little bit of a challenge, but we figured it out. And even though it doesn't look like it, apparently the road is connected to the small port. I guess I keep calling it a shipyard, but the small port. And then we're going to, add a little bit of a road to kind of help out so that it looks a little bit better. I think that works out a lot better than it was prior without that road. So jumping in, sadly, come to realize we only get one slot. Well, we only need one right now. So let's go ahead and grab the iron ore. Let's pump it up to, let's say 13, 15-ish. Don't want to overdo it because it looks like that is going to be expensive, but I was very upset to find out that I didn't get 5 extra slots. So we only got one for the extra port, even though the first port gave us 5. A little confusing. It is what it is, but I checked it a couple times just to make sure I wasn't confused. At this point, we need to get our coal burner going and our iron smelter. The first thing that I realized when we, again, fighting with collisions, I won't go on rants today. So we're gonna make a smaller area here as we can. So we're trying to just make some straight roads, having a little bit of problems with the collisions of roads and intersections. Yeah, I'm trying not to be a broken record, but we get this little area set up, which is gonna be plenty. We're gonna start first with the iron mine, or no, we're gonna start with the small iron melt. So that's where we're gonna smelt the iron ore down with the coal and turn it into iron. Since we're importing the iron ore, we're not going to really worry about the amount that the mine creates because we don't have a mine. But we did notice that the charcoal burner needs, or it produces 2 charcoal per 4 wood. So for every tick or every rotation, we're going to get 4 coal. That's what the iron melt needs to create the iron. So we're going to have a 4-to-4 ratio. We're importing for the iron ore, but we are generating the coal ourselves. So we're going to need 2 plants, hopefully to keep up with productivity, and eventually we'll have our own iron mine to be able to get the iron ore naturally and not have to worry about importing that as well. But we're getting that up and running, getting the supply chain going for that. As always in these areas, we're adding a carrier. We're going to adjust the radius a little bit for that, or the reach, to make sure that the carrier just works on some of the closer buildings. We don't want it going all around town to use up those trucks when they're needed for those new buildings that we put in place. So now we just have to kind of wait for the game to catch up and the cycles of each of these buildings to start churning out their 100% productivity at minimum. And then we'll get our iron going so we can, start using some of those new buildings that we recently unlocked as we grew the population a little bit last episode. And since we just added 2 buildings that are going to take 4 wood each, we definitely need to add to our wood supply or our wood production. And one of the reasons we wanted the iron was to make these medium lumberjack yards. And so now we kind of have a waiting game of waiting for at least 2 iron to come in so we can then lay that down. But then we're hoping we don't run out of wood to produce that. So we're kind of balancing things out and trying to not get behind too much in the resource game here. But eventually we do get our 2 iron as we're kind of watching just it get produced. We have 2 there, just waiting for a truck to then put it into the warehouses so we have it available to us. And here we go. And I was losing my patience a little bit, so I decided to zone some of our offices, our zone office 2s, our office complexes, and we wanted to add them around this shore here, this coast. When we update to or unlock the next tier of offices and residents, we're going to put them here as well because I believe they are more skyscrapers. And here I was trying to figure out exactly what to do when I zone too much. One of the keys is, as we figure out later on, you want to pause the game, you want to delete the building you didn't mean to grow, and then you want to delete the zoning. So you have to use the demolish option to delete the building first, then remove the zoning afterwards. It is a 2-step process to do that. Later on we figure it out and fix that area. a little annoyed with that, but you know, it's just a mechanic that we have to learn in the game as we play along. And to make sure we don't run out of workers, we're going to add some apartments here as well. We realize that we are putting that up. Oh, and we hit Big Village. Just going to talk about something else. So we hit Big Village. That gives us a couple more leisure buildings. We get a garbage power plant, city garbage collections, a bigger church, a grain field, a mill, a bakery. That's awesome. Tax office, a planning office. Bread's cool. We need bread for the current tier of citizens that we're on. So that's awesome. Excited to get that going in this episode as well. But as I was going to say prior to hitting that milestone is we're going to have to move our leisure building again a little bit away from these residents. Yeah, as I mentioned last episode, I'm not thrilled with this feature of the game, but we will figure out how to get away with or get around the issue that is the noise from the parks. And you know, I'm not going to rant about it again. At this point, we decided to take advantage of the fact that we had 2 tiles available of us to purchase, or plots of land. I'm not sure exactly what they call it here in this game, but there we go. We're expanding out, we're keeping moving on, and we wanted to add some fields over here. So the first thing we're trying to add is the sheep field so that we could start creating those t-shirts ourselves instead of importing those, starting to satisfy all the needs of our city, of our town, ourselves, trying to import as little as possible. Eventually, I want to get really into the exporting game and really bump up that profitability of the town. Again, we're running into some issues. That is a known bug that I did find online on the roadmap for Highrise City, and it's unfortunate because it definitely seems to affect the way we create farms. And one of the things that I've noticed is even though we see some larger ones that I was able to pull off, you do have to create these farms kind of small. The game's a lot happier when you do that. So we play around with it a little bit, trying to create them, and then we just settle for this smaller one. Wanted a bigger one. That didn't work out, so maybe we'll just do 2 smaller ones is kind of my thought process here. And playing around this section here, I think it would be really nice if the game had a different warning message. It's going to tell me there's a lack of construction resources. It doesn't tell me which one. Every time we click on it, we have plenty. We have 8 wood, we have everything we need. So maybe we pause the game so something else doesn't take the wood, but I don't think that's the case by the time we finish. Let's keep an eye up top. We have 13 wood still. Something just took 25. So it looks like it does take 25 to lay the building down. As I'm watching this replay over, it would be nice if there was a tooltip other than at the very top, because you're not really looking at that at the time. So, and it would also be nice if that value was added into the cost somewhere on the screen. It does show it up top. As you make it bigger, it looks like the larger the farm, the more wood it takes to create. So we figured that out during the replay and the voiceover of the video. We're going to implement that next episode because I'm not happy with the way the farms look. I'm probably going to bump up the wood supply and redo a bunch of them. Very cool. I'm glad we worked through that. I'm not as mad about the farms anymore. I guess I just got to slow down, like I mentioned in the last episode, and just read what the game's trying to tell us. And finally, we can get our medium lumberjack yards. We're going to get 2 of those put down as long as we have enough. Kind of funny, we don't have enough tools now. We've been importing those as well. So I think now that we have iron, we should be able to create, yes. So 1 iron creates 3 tools, but we need 4 more wood to get that. So we have a nice spot in our iron area, our iron supply chain, where we're gonna put this building. It's gonna work out nice because it needs the iron, and the iron should be close at the carrier, that local carrier that we created. So we'll get that going, then we'll be able to create our second lumberjack yard, medium lumberjack yard, that I'm really wanting to bump up the productivity of wood in the city so we can keep moving on a lot faster. As you can see, while we're playing around doing some other things, our iron productivity is through the roof. We have 49 iron right now. We just used 2 of them. We have 47. So that setup that we have should be good for a while. We can probably start selling some eventually. Now that we have the tool rod up and running, we should be able to cancel the supply that we had coming in, the trade that we had, because we aren't going to need that anymore. Definitely gonna not rely on the other cities around this world to supply us with things that we can produce on our own. That's the game. That's the way I'm playing the game. We're gonna keep going that way too. So we're coming back over here to our small port. We're gonna go ahead, get rid of that. We don't need it anymore. That's definitely gonna help our income. You can see right now we're floating around 18,000 a week. Definitely helping out. We're not gonna need the shirts anymore. We're actually producing those on our own, so we can go ahead and sell some of those as well. The spices and iron ore we're gonna need still. can see there, we're gonna say, let's float around 30 t-shirts. I'm not sure exactly what the game calls it. I think it's textiles, but we're gonna float around 30. If we have a little bit extra, 34 we're gonna keep, we'll sell them. Not really making much on selling right now. We're gonna get to that later on once we get all of our supply chains really dialed in and producing really well and always filling up the warehouses. So here we're starting to work on bread. So the first thing we're gonna need is a wheat field. Again, we learned something while doing the editing of this video. We're gonna struggle getting this field down, but we're going to go back and redo some of those prior to making the next episode. I'll probably do that off camera and show an update of it. But there's some services that we needed in the area, so we went ahead and took care of those, as well as adding in some more health. We were gonna add a hospital, but we didn't have enough resources for that, so we decided to use the regular medical center as well. The reason why we're adding these ones down is the two up there to the top right or the middle of the screen-ish. We're gonna get rid of those so we can add some fields. At least that was the thought. And then again, there's so much that goes on in this game. So I got distracted by the fact that our local carrier was full, so I decided to narrow the focus down of that carrier as well while we're waiting for some resources to get this hospital going. Then we just decided to add the medical center instead, and then we can come over here and demolish these other two, freeing up that space to add some fields as we desired. So my initial thought was, we're gonna need a ton of grain. Let's try to make a lot of grain here. And again, let's take a look at this. We can connect this one up, and we have a lack of resources because we needed 47 brick. So now that I know that, I'm a lot less mad at the game. I could have just waited a little bit. That's gonna need 75 now. I made it bigger. So now we know we can make large farms. They're just gonna take a lot of resources to create. It'll pay back with the production of food and we could eventually sell. So we're gonna have to find a happy medium, or we just kind of luck out because I wasn't really paying attention to the very top of it. Somewhat think there could be a little bit added to the game to help out with this area, but I need to add some feedback to the developers for that one. I think I will. So after struggling, and a lot of people are probably new to the channel, I like to show the struggles in these videos. I don't always edit out the mistakes that we make while we're playing, because I like to show the human elements of it. So that's why you're seeing some of these things, and it would have been really easy to just go in and cut like a minute of this out while I'm just goofing around not knowing what I'm doing. But again, I like the human element of it. Let me know what you think. So here we're just, really playing around until things work out for us. And luckily our supply chain was really kicking into overdrive there as everything was starting to fill up. So once we got rid of the collision issues with some of the roads, we were able to get the farm laid down and happy with it. So on to the next step of producing wood. We're gonna go find our foods. We're gonna find our mill. So we're gonna need a mill to create flour, and then we're going to need a bakery to create bread. So that's a perfect supply chain. It looks like that'll work out for us. We are gonna need 10 wheat per 8 flour, which is a weird number. And then we'll need 4 flour to make 1 loaf of bread. Weird math. At the end of the day, you can have 2 of the bakeries per flour mill. If the math checks out, 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 makes 1, but 8 makes 2, because 8 divided by 4 is 2. That's the math. While I was rambling on about some weird, easy, basic math, we added a small warehouse. I'm not 100% sure exactly how this one works either. It added 50. 50. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It added 50 though, and I don't know if that's across the board. 50 tons. I don't know. I wish I knew, because I would tell you. But there, we're getting our mill down and our bakery. We could have done 2 bakeries, but we did not. We just did 1. See if that satisfies the needs. Get it going. Keep it up. We're seeing how our production is happening on our wheat farm. It's looking good. 172% productivity because of the research we did last episode. We need a local carrier. Gonna need a carrier to get the things out there and get them moved around. They're waiting for the resources so they can start being productive as well. They got a couple in. It looks like they are producing a little bit of wheat. Oh, actually, I still had the farm select. I'm so confused sometimes on the way these screens don't just close themselves. They're very nice that you can have multiple open, but sometimes you get a little confused. And then I thought the garbage collector was a carrier. Silly, silly socks way up. we finally figure it out and we decide to add another carrier. So here we go. Local carrier, we're gonna put them near the wheat field so they can pick up the wheat. I don't really understand completely the reach here. So if we pick up the wheat, we take it to this warehouse, and then eventually someone comes and drives it on over here because the wheat does end up showing up. As we can see, now we're producing some flour. Once we get the productivity of that going, we'll definitely start creating plenty of bread. And there's the local carrier for the bakery and the mill as well. In the rest of this recording session, we grew out this little district of the city a little bit and then decided I caved. I was gonna wait till next recording session or next episode to check out the zone office complex 3, but I decided to put down some of them here. We lay down a nice 3x3 or a 3x2. It does create a 2x2 building and then two 1x1s or a 1x2 as well. And we're kind of playing around here, trying to learn a little bit about the game. If I wait for the resources, I accidentally built that one. So here we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pause the game and we're gonna demolish some of these, wait to have enough resources so that we can then lay down a 2x2 square and see if we can get a 2x2 building to populate. Kind of an idea that I had. We also received a comment in one of our last videos that some of the alleys that we were driving through are very common in Japan and the Mediterranean for residential areas that are jam-packed together like that. So it is kind of realistic to some of the world. I'm just ignorant to it, and now I'm not. Thank you for the comment. You can see here we failed at our test. We did have one of them populate as a 2x2, but then when we delete this one, forget to pause the game, we let it regrow, then we delete it again, and we're confused. Trying to remember that you have to pause the game, delete the buildings, which is a really cool effect that happens right here. Check this out. Delete and it grows, delete and it grows. And then it went away. Kind of weird, but we get those all going away. I don't know if I needed to delete the zone, recreate it. Oh, we do. So we'd even test it out that way. Recreate the 2x2, was hoping that a similar building to the one next to it would populate. It did not, unfortunately. It would be nice to have a little bit of control on that. Yeah, some wants and needs from Sock's Way Up. But yeah, this area grew in pretty nice, coming in pretty cool. I think that's about gonna wrap it up. We're also going to just get a sneak peek at some of the engineer buildings. Or the zone engineers. Once we get enough resources in, we need a little bit of iron. We need one more iron. Come on, we can do it. We're losing iron right now because we've been spending it. So we're not selling it anywhere, so that should be fine. After patiently waiting, we have enough resources. We're gonna see our first zone engineers. Let's see how cool the building is, and it's actually already looking pretty sweet. All right, it's a unique little office complex. They're gonna need beer and they're gonna need bread as well. We're taking care of that, but we're gonna have to get into the beer game next. All right, we can do that. But I think that's gonna do it for this episode. Thanks for joining. I'm Sock's Way Up. Welcome to all the new subscribers and all the new people viewing our series and hanging out on our channel. Thank you. Don't hit the F11 button. That's what it does there. It changes to window mode, even though I saw somewhere on Steam, I think it said that was a high resolution screenshot. It's not. You do have to go into the screenshot tool and take those. And then there's a zoom 1, 2, 3, and 4 option as well. I could rant all night. I'm Sock's Way Up. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you on the next episode of Highrise City.